The National Energy Regulator of South Africa has given Eskom the green light to recover 13.3 billion rand from consumers. This is for electricity supplied in the 2018-2019 financial year. The move will hit consumers particularly hard as the country grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic. Eskom is also expected to draw up an implementation plan for recovering the tariffs. For more on this, joining me now is Nhlanhla Gumede, who is responsible for electricity regulation at Nersa. As a full-time regulatory member of Nersa. A very good afternoon, Nhlanhla. Thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, take us through the RCA application. What is that?
The electricity. Firstly, good afternoon to the viewers. The electricity pricing system works on a process called the multi-year pricing determination regime, in which case we actually look at how the costs are going to look and how the sales are going to look for the next 5 years, and but it's therefore based on projections. Then every year, Eskom comes back to say, this is what was realized last year. Therefore, I need to clear the account that is balanced. Where there was an over recovery, it then it gives back to the consumers. Where there was an under recovery, it asks the consumers to then pay a little bit more to be able to recover those costs. That is the regulatory clearing account.
Okay, so at the same time, Eskom was saying they came back and said, yes, this is the amount that we under recovered, but they were also blaming you as Nersa for a significant portion of that amount, which was 69 million rand. Why? Can you explain that to us?
Are you talking about this current RCA, or are you talking about the previous RCAs?
I'm talking about the previous RCAs.
Okay. Look, even with this one, for instance, Nersa applied to recover a further 27 billion rands. The regulator only approved 13 billion rands. Now, clearly, there's a difference between what they applied for and what they were granted. That's been happening in the past as well. And the challenge there is that Nersa, Eskom would come and say, these are my actual costs. And Nersa would say, yes, those costs might be actual, but the question is were they incurred prudently or not. If Nersa feels that if the licensee was more efficient, it would not have incurred that cost, or at least not to that extent, it then only approves the costs that are claimed to the extent to which it feels that those costs were prudent. So that's where these disagreements between the regulator and Eskom emanate from.
Okay, now you're saying as Nersa, you've balanced both Eskom and the public interest in reaching this decision to allow for the recovery of 13.3 billion rand. I, as a consumer, will sit there and say, but hang on a second, you know, some of this, there's been a lot of corruption cases taking place, mismanagement and so forth at Eskom. Why on earth should I be forking out some of this money?
Okay, it's that reason why in the press release we had indicated that energy regulator is continuously looking at the competent authorities like the courts and commissions who might be looking at these governance failures at Eskom. And until they pronounce that something has been beyond reasonable doubt proved that Eskom or this particular, the impact of a governance failure was to a quantum of X amount, the regulator unfortunately cannot on its own just say, because it's been reported in the press that there was 1 billion rands paid to this and 600 million rand paid to this, therefore Eskom will just claw back that on behalf of, unfortunately, on behalf of consumers. Unfortunately, that has to be proved first in a court of law. Then it becomes evidence, and that's the only time that Nersa can take that into account. So yes, the consumers will be hard done by.
They will be hard done by. And then what happens if, yes, those amounts have not been fully quantified? In about 6 months' time, we now find out those amounts, it all amounted to 20, 30 billion rand and so forth. And a consumer sits there and says, oh, wait a minute, so I was paying for, for all of this when it wasn't really my fault. Do I get recompensated? Do I get compensated in any way?
Of course. So unfortunately, as much as the pricing system, the MYPD is future-looking, the RCA is it clears whatever had happened the previous year. So once those amounts are publicized, once those amounts have been cleared in terms of the courts, those amounts will then be claimed back from Eskom, in which case it will then result in a reduction in the tariff. But unfortunately, we have to wait for the courts to be able to claim that back.
Okay, and just lastly, are we clear on the ways that Eskom is going to recover these amounts? And are you okay with the way they're going to do it?
Look, let's put it this way. So the implementation plan, for instance, is meant to look primarily at the socio-economic impact of these decisions. As we sit here, I'm uncomfortable as I say these numbers, because we know that the consumers are actually going to be hit very negatively in a situation. And unfortunately, with COVID, the demand is going to be much lower. So, for instance, rightfully, Eskom has the right to come back next year and say, look, my costs, 60 or 70% of our costs are fixed. The fact that there was this less demand, I just need additional revenue. What do? Do we increase it further? So, but the issue is that there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a way. We need to start a conversation here of how we sort out this pricing issue, because it's impacting negatively both on Eskom and on consumers. So for me, what I'm saying is that so we need, as a part of an implementation plan, we need to sit down, I think, not just with Eskom, but with all of the consumers, and work out a system that will make sure that we've got an electricity pricing system that is stable and will benefit both the licensee, Eskom in this case, as well as the consumers.
All right, as a consumer, I look forward to that. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Nhlanhla Gumede, who's responsible for electricity regulation at Nersa.